We should be live. Hello, everyone. It is almost 2 o'clock in the Central Time Zone, noon out in Pacific, and we will get started with the Cloudily podcast here in just another minute or two. All right, I have the top of the hour, 2 o'clock Central, noon Pacific, and in the spirit of keeping things on time, let's get rolling. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of the podcast from Cloudily Conversations. My name is Eric Dreschfield. I am the founder of Midwest Dreamin' and Dreamin' in Data, both some community conferences within the Salesforce ecosystem. And as well, I am a longtime member of the Salesforce MVP program and in the Hall of Fame there too. My function with Cloudily is an interesting one. I do host some podcasts for them. I also try to facilitate some great conversations with other partners and customers just to try to make sure everyone's aware of what's going on in the ecosystem and how Cloudily might be able to help. With us today for this conversation, we have Niraj Itan. Niraj, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure, Eric. Are you able to hear me fine, Eric?
Gotcha, just fine. Yep.
Okay. So thank you, Eric, first of all, for inviting me to this. This is Nirajitan. I have been in the space of implementing lead to cache for more than 12 years now. Have implemented the CPQ CLM solutions for more than 50 plus customers. This space always has interested me, and excited to be here to talk about it.
Fantastic. So what are we talking about today, right? That's the big question right now. The conversation that we're going to have is all around lead to cache, product to cache, revenue, operations, contract lifecycle management, and how all of that can be impacted by artificial intelligence and what's happening because of that, and how does that all impact revenue and return on investment. So let's jump right in. First question I think I want to ask you really is thinking about the revenue apps that are out there. Let's start with kind of the basics. Can you talk about the differences between lead to cache and product to cache and explain where contract management really fits into all of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think good point to start this conversation. So let us start with understanding what exactly is lead to cache, right? So lead to cache is a broader journey. Okay, so basically you start with capturing the leads or generating a demand, right? It starts from the marketing side of things, right? And then you gradually move on to the engagement. We also call it the opportunity stage, right? Wherein you have a lead, you have demand generated, the marketing has generated it. Then you go in, you do engagement with the customer to understand what actually they want. And then from that point, after you have had that conversations with the customer would be interested in knowing what are the products, how are they priced, and all those things. And that is where the CPQ comes in. From there, we want to convert once a customer agrees. We want to convert that conversation, or I would say the sales promises, into something solid, into something which is more grounded. And that is where we would then use the contracting part of it, and that is where the CLM comes in, right? After the contracts have been done, we have negotiated all the terms and conditions. Then we move into uh, billing the customers, and then that is where the billing system comes in. The customer then pays the cash or pays the money, and then we have the revenue recognition systems. So this is where the entire lead to cash system is, Eric. Uh,
It,
yeah. Sorry.
it sounds like there's a lot of opportunity for confusion, perhaps, or misguided conversations, data not necessarily making it to where it should. Um, it seems like there's some inherent inefficiencies almost built into this. Uh, what do you think's the cause, or where might there be some ideas for solutioning on helping those inefficiencies become better?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think that's a great question. Okay. So what I have seen with many of the customers, so customers would generally be, I would put them into maybe three or four categories of customers. Okay. The first category or the level one customers are the customers who do not know what they want to do. So basically, they are not using any tool or anything right now. They are still the customers which are still using the old school tools like the Excel, the Word, and everything, and they are doing everything very very inefficiently, right? Then I go to the level two side of customers, wherein the customers are aware of what exactly they want to do, but then again, the systems that they are using are all siloed. As I described in the lead to cash journey, there it is a single flow, but then it involves many different tools. So what we have seen with the level two type of customers, they know what they want, but then they have different tools for different processes, and they are all siloed. They are not talking to each other. So that also creates problem. And then there are level three type of customers who have figured it out. That is, they are using end-to-end tool, but still the processes and everything are not that efficient, right? So I think the first and the foremost thing to actually solve this is to have an end-to-end integrated flow. I think I always advise my customers that, okay, whenever you start on a CPQ CLM journey, I think first of all you should do is you should get everybody in the room, right from your salespeople to your marketing people to your accounting folks, to understand your end-to-end journey. And then maybe you can just focus on that one specific module to start with, so that you don't have to go maybe big bang in your implementation. But at least you should have that vision of a very high level end-to-end process flow, so that you can then move in the direction of implementing all the modules in that flow, I would say.
Okay, makes sense. So the solution is equally as complex as the
Yep.
problem, obviously, and you've
Yep.
just kind of started touching upon that, and the fact that it impacts practically every single piece of the organization, right?
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
we alluded to at the beginning, contract lifecycle, configure, price quote, billing, revenue, you name it, it's all involved somehow. So if you think about what AI can do now, based upon what we've already discussed, what do you think some examples of use cases might be that would benefit from AI? How would that potentially drive automation, or more importantly, perhaps even better business outcomes, higher profitability, lower customer churn, those types of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is the talk of the town these days, Eric. So yes, we want to talk about it. So there are certain areas. Uh, Again, first of all, for every company, the goal is that they want to move fast. Okay, so basically, with an end-to-end lead to cash process, I think the ultimate goal is that they want to increase their deal velocity. They want to sell more. Every company wants to sell more. They want to sell quickly, right? But then the important part is that, again, just selling quickly is not enough. You have to sell accurately as well. You have to see, what were the pricing that you used, whether all the necessary approvals were taken or not for the pricing or for anything, and whether when you were building your contracts, did it cover all of your risk that you can be, right? So I think not just the deal velocity, but I think the accuracy is also very very important. And I think there are certain areas where we have seen that AI is making some big changes, right? So some of the examples that we could see is that as in the first example that comes to my mind is the opportunity forecasting, right? So now AI is at a stage, if you can feed it, or if you can feed the system good data about your opportunities on what happened, different type of deals, what time of the year, and what were the conditions for that deal. I think AI is able to predict whether what are the chances of you winning a certain opportunity or not. So that is the kind of example that we have been seeing. The other examples you would see again, coming back to the CPQ part of it, right? So you would see that again AI is at a stage, if you can feed it good amount of data with pricing and overall approvals, then it will be able to predict what will be a correct pricing for that particular deal, right? Again, I'm just giving you that what are the possibilities, okay? Because again, this all implementation takes a lot of I would say, first of all, you need to have a lot of data. The data needs to be in that format so that you can then feed into AI, and then you have to build that AI system, right? One of the other examples of AI being used in this process is again contract lifecycle, right? So I have seen customers using AI to get insights from their contract. One of the very common use cases that I have seen is that they want to extract information from their existing contracts, get insights, should be able to ask questions, should be able to raise flags, the red flags or the risks that are there in their existing contracts. So customers are actually using AI to actually do all of these things from their existing data.
And that's all things that have been done manually or through utilizing other tools for years.
Yeah,
The big benefit here of having AI do that is the speed in which those insights comes to the end users, right?
yeah, absolutely.
It's
So that's actually a great point. So you think about it, right? An enterprise customer who has maybe not millions, maybe hundreds of thousands of contracts, right, over the years, right? Now, if you want to maybe find a precedence of something that you are doing right now, I think yes, people could have done it manually previously, but even in certain cases, it was not even possible. But now, if you have an AI system which is good enough, which can go and review the contract for you, can find that okay, maybe I found this, precedence in this type of contracts. I think that could actually speed up the work a lot, right? And I have also seen it is generally useful in the day-to-day work, but then it becomes very very important or useful in situations where companies are going for M&As and all those things, when they want to see what exactly has happened, what are our commitments, and how do we merge with different companies, I would say.
so the couple things come to mind here from this
Yeah.
conversation. Obviously, all of this is based upon having solid, clean data and having enough volume of data to be able to analyze and make assumptions and decisions and conclusions. But then it also seems to me as though there has to be some level of trust, I suppose might be the right word, that the artificial intelligence can actually assess the value, assess the contract risk, figure out where the loopholes might be, and things like that. If you think about the process from that perspective and view it from that of like a decision maker, are we at the point now where AI can really be relied upon for this, or are we still kind of in that early, almost pilot stage of just trying to see how it does?
Yeah, I think that's $1 million question. So I would say, Eric, we are right now at a stage wherein AI can be a co-pilot. It cannot be a pilot. Okay. So yes, it can do many things, as I told you, right? Some things it can do very quickly, but then we are not at that stage where we can solely rely on them to make decisions. Right? So I think right now it is more on the it's like augmenting. So basically, I would say that yes, the final decision maker is the human. It could be a legal person, it could be a salesperson, but then AI can bring up a lot of important insights that is useful for the human to take decisions, I would say. So that actually makes the decision taking process a lot quicker, I would say, right? But again, as you correctly mentioned, right? yes, there are different parts to implementation of the AI, but then again, we are not at that level or not at that stage that we could completely give our business to AI, I would say.
Okay. Makes sense to me. So I'm curious if there's some strategies or some things that might be able to be implemented that would help customers feel like they're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
Using standardized clauses, for example, in contract language, I think would probably help that out. Um,
Yeah.
any other thoughts on that as
Yeah.
far as
I
things that
think
might
Yeah, I think see this, even if you get AI or you get any other technology, right? I think the underlying facts remain the same or are still the same, Eric. Even if you have the best CLM system or a CPQ system, but if you don't have a good process or if you don't know enough about your data, you will never be able to implement a good solution, right? The same thing applies to AI as well, right? AI has some more nuances, which I will come in a bit, but I think the first and the most important thing is that first of all, the businesses should be able to define their processes, what they want to achieve of the system, right? I think I have seen many a times when we implement for a customer, the customers are not clear about their end goals, and I think that is where it always becomes difficult on because there's no guiding light as such. Where are we going? Right? So I think that is the most important thing, that what do you want to achieve, right? So first of all, define your goal at a higher level from lead to cash, right? Get everybody in the room, define that goal, and then go into your individual modules. For example, go into your CPQ, define what is the input output and what do you want to achieve for that module as a goal, right? I think that is the good start to actually for any implementation, right? Then when you do an implementation, always think about it, that okay, can I how I want to have the insights from the AI, and then what is the data that I want to be needing for that. Even if you don't implement AI right now, but I think when you build a system, you should define those fields, that okay, maybe I'll need some insights later on, I'll use some AI systems. For that, I need to start capturing the data right away. So I think that is where when you're doing an implementation, you should keep that yeah, in the back of your mind, that okay, you are defining the structure and the data model in a way, right? That's one. Now coming back to the AI implementations, right? So again, for AI implementations, as I told you, right, we are right now in a stage wherein we can have AI as a good co-pilot, right? So it is very, very important that we define boundaries. That okay, AI can do certain things, but it cannot do certain things, right? So I think that is very, very important that we define clear demarcation for AI to work in that space, right? Uh, Always, because it's a co-pilot, it is always recommended that you have a human in the loop. So anything that AI is doing right now, I think needs to be reviewed by a person. And then once that person has a confidence level that yes, the AI is performing as per the things that I need. And then again, I think that's also a very important thing to consider, is that whether the decisions that AI is taking are not of that high value risk, right? I think if we are confident that yes, it is, maybe for example, again, suppose if AI is extracting the insights from the contract, right? I think this is a good instance which we can walk through, right? So what generally would we suggest is that okay, maybe let us first of all train the AI on your data. Let us see some results. After going into production, we recommend that okay, maybe use the AI as a co-pilot, and the human has to review the result from the AI. Once after some time, or doing or processing enough data, if the human thinks that again yes, AI is doing a good job, then I think we can think about reducing the work that the human is doing there, and then the human can do other works, right? But then again, we can suggest this because if getting the insights, it's not like a high risk thing for a business, right? So that's also very important consideration, that what your the decision that the AI is making, is that going to have like $1 million impact to the business or not?
Okay. So what it sounds like you're really talking about to us, wow, I can't talk today. To some extent, is governance, right? When you mentioned keeping the human in the loop, and figuring out where the sweet spot is between automation and accountability. So if you think about that and think about the impact of what this is going to have on all of the current inefficiencies in processes and systems that are already out there, is there some method or some way where you'll be able to actually figure out what the opportunity cost is, what the true ROI will be? This could impact delayed bookings, missed renewals, manual errors in contract language or in processing of data.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, I guess what I'm curious about is, what do you think the size of the opportunity cost is here? What's the potential upside for organizations?
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. I think that's a good question. And again, this is the question that comes to mind when you are trying to do anything with AI, because I think everything requires an investment, and everyone has to justify the return on investment when they do this, right? So I think the most important or the foremost thing that we have done is, again, it all boils down to the system or the processes that the businesses have already built, right? So, for example, are the systems good enough to measure the efficiency in the with the current setup? I think that is the question that we need to answer, right? So for example, we have seen customers when they implement CLM, they would be smart enough to see the future, and then they would implement cycle time reporting with it, right? Now what does cycle time do is that it would actually tell them that these are these are the times that it takes for your contract to go from one stage to another, right? So that is a good measure of what is the total time it is taking for a contract to actually complete, to actually get signed. And then it also gives you insights on what is that module, which stage it is taking. Is it taking more time during the signature process, during the review process, right? And that is where you take that inefficiency and see how AI can help you there. So for example, if you see that the contract is taking too much of time during the review process, then we have so many tools available in the market which can actually act as a co-pilot and can help the legal folks to review the contract. They can summarize the contract, they can get you the insights, they can actually flag the risk, okay, all those things. And that is where I think you can actually reduce the overall time, right? Now, overall, once you're able to find those places and you apply the AI there, you should be able to see what is the gain in the time that you're getting. And maybe you were able to complete a certain number of deals in a month's time. By doing that kind of calculation, you could come to a point where you could see that, okay, how that is going to increase when we do this kind of solutioning, I would say.
Okay, so there's one question, another question perhaps that comes to my mind from this conversation, thinking about all the various applications and systems that we're touching and we're talking about. Where should the so-called system of record be? You mean you got to rely on one particular spot, right, to maintain the true data, and that's integrating with all the others. So where's that? I mean, is it your CRM? Is it your CLM? Could it be your ERP? I mean, what do you feel about that?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting question. Again, there's no straightforward answer to it, but I'll try to give you some nuances here so that then we can maybe reach a conclusion together. So what happens, as I told you, right, in the lead to cash process, right, there are so many different modules which are involved, right? And each of this module has their own information that they want to use, or maybe they produce during that process, right? So for example, and again, I'm actually taking an instance which is like which is generally applicable to most of the setup or customers, right? So a salesperson, when they're talking to the customer, they would generally have some ideas of what they want to sell. So they would add the line items of the product information, I would say, to an opportunity object, right? Because that is where they are thinking that, okay, this is where we are going, right? So you would see that that particular data, when it is added, it has all the information related to that stage that the customer is talking to the salesperson. Okay. Now, for that sales engagement, I think that becomes the system of record, that particular data, right? But when you move into maybe the quoting stage, wherein the customer is now interested to know the pricing, wants to know how much discount we can give, if there are any promotions available. Those that information that we captured now gets transferred to the quoting stage. But along with that, the quoting stage also adds some more information. So basically, it is the data enrichment process. We will also put in some more information which is required by the quoting process, right? And then once maybe the deal is closed, we are all happy. The customer says that, okay, I want to buy this product. We move into the contracting stage. Again, the same data is moved under the contracts now. Plus, we would also add some more information to that data. So you are seeing that the data is flowing from one module to another module. That is a good example of how do you want to have your modules as a single journey. But then the data is also enriched at each stage so that it can, as in that particular module can function properly, right? That's why it is always recommended that yes, at a high level, you could define something, but when you want to define the system of record at a module level, it is the same data which is captured in that module. So for example, if you want to get pricing details, right, I would recommend you that you go in and then maybe something specific to quoting, you go and see the data which is generated in the CPQ system, right? But then again, suppose if you are talking about that, I want to see something like a contracting term, right? Then the data for that you will get in the CLM system. So the system of record changes as you move across the modules. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a specific use case or two for the next few minutes while we have just a few minutes left here. I know one of the things you and I chatted about before getting online here was like the predictive deal desk aspect of sales. What's the deal there? Let's chat a little bit about that and what AI can do for organizations that are going through that process.
Yeah. So again, I just want to understand the aspect that you are looking at here. So you're talking about the deal desk, which is generally the final gatekeeper to complete the deal. Is that what you're looking at? Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's an important point. Okay. So whenever we are having a deal, right? So we do have these gatekeepers who would finally verify everything before they can confirm that yes, the deal is as per the laid out norms of the company. They will evaluate whether there is any risk or not, and then they would finally mark that deal in the system to be completed, right? Now, because again, as I told you, right, we are at a stage wherein it has become, I wouldn't say it 100% accuracy, but we have reached a stage wherein the AI is able to review the documents, can compare it with the existing policies, and can then decide whether something is appropriate or not. I think there is a big opportunity for AI to actually come in, which can actually do the work of some of this, or I would say not completely, but at least help them in speeding up this process. I would say so.
Okay, makes sense there. So let's think about this from like the revenue forecasting perspective. Where do you see the biggest benefits from that side of the house, if you will?
Yeah. So I think this is again very, very important aspect of a business that you want to forecast, and then maybe give your guidance based on what will be your revenues, right? I think, and again, right now, I think most of the times we are already doing it where we are looking at the past data, and then we are trying to predict that, okay, because in the past year, in this time of the year, the deal flow is relatively low. This is what I'm predicting for the future, right? I think wherever you have such a use case, AI can actually do a lot of work there, because again, AI is actually as in the setup overall is to predict based on the past information, right? So you could actually have an AI system. You can feed up the data, and then it can actually then predict you the deal, as in predict your future deals, or how the revenue is going to flow, right? The only caveat with this is that how comfortable you are to share your information with the AI systems, right? Again, that has become a kind of talk of the town right now, Eric, wherein, yes, we do have the systems already available, but then there are some questions which are still not completely answered, I would say so, which are like that, okay, yes, you can have a generic AI, for example, Chat GPT or something, which can give you generic answers, right? But then if you want it to behave or give you answers specific to your business, then you would need to provide it a lot of data, right? First of all, the
Mhm.
question is that do you have that kind of data? And then the second question is more regulatory, that are you able to share that data with the AI? Right? Are you like comfortable sharing that data? Right? That's why I think businesses are also looking for AI systems which are not publicly hosted and are closed loops, I would say so, so that they can
Okay.
then your data resides within your system. You can still play with it. AI can also help you and all those things. Yeah.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So as we're kind of wrapping up here, can you put this all into maybe a 3 or 4 step thought process of what's a best practice for doing the implementation of this, and then just kind of summarize it with some of your closing thoughts and
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. So, again, when we're implementing the lead to cash process, right? I would say I think the most important thing is to define a very robust process and define a process for the future. Okay. Don't think about maybe tomorrow, this month, this year. Okay. Think about maybe 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, right? So define a process in that way. Since the advent of AI, as I said, whenever you define a process, whenever you define a data model, always think about that how this data can be used in the future, because very soon most of these systems would have some kind of aiding or some kind of help from the AI systems, right? So I think that is where we need to think about, right? Once the processes are defined, I think we should try to have a system which actually offers you an end-to-end solution. It's not like the siloed systems that, okay, for example, you are taking one CPQ system and then trying to marry it with another CLM system, right? Try to go for a system which actually provides you an end-to-end solution, right? And again, just philosophically, right? In the revenue operations, as I said, one of the most important thing is speed. So speed always wins, okay? But then again, accuracy is equally important, right? Suppose again, you don't want to do deal faster and then get into trouble of millions of dollars with doing something wrong in the contracting or approval processes. These are my thoughts, Eric.
okay. So I obviously speed wins. We get that. That's for sure. Accuracy super important. The combination of the two. If I could use the term deadly, I will, but maybe that's a little overstated, perhaps. But super important, and the combination
Yep.
is fantastic. I think to summarize all this up into just one really brief statement, I think what I just kind of heard you say is that utilizing artificial intelligence in lead to cash, product to cash, whatever terminology there you want to use, it's not just about automation, but in reality, it's about amplifying the outcomes across every other department: sales, finance, legal,
Yep.
et cetera. Right? I mean, is that a reasonable summary? Would you say?
Yes, Eric, I would agree. Yes, I think this is where we are going. I would we what you're saying makes complete sense, and I would say this is for today and for the future as well. So,
Awesome. Very good. Well, Niraj, appreciate you being on the podcast here with us. I'm sure some of the audience members will chime in at some point through social media with some potential comments and questions, and certainly I will try to highlight those to you as the week progresses, and make sure we get some answers to some of the comments and questions that we're seeing out there. Everybody who's joined us today, we appreciate you being here, and hope you'll join us for our next podcast in the near future. Take care,
thank you, Eric.
everyone.
Thank you, Eric. Take care. Bye bye.